friend a few days ago. I'm sorry it took so long to post it, but it basically connects to the last live feed that I did. Um, talking about FBA or Foundational Black Americans, and we specifically talk about President Obama. I won't give too much because I'd rather you watch the video, but let's just say we didn't have flattering things to say about the man. I've, made no effort to hide my views on him or that I support Trump and other related things. So check that out when it uploads, probably within a few minutes or so. Um, Based on my last live feed, I decided to do another vertical live stream where you can just basically ask me anything today, if anyone is watching. If not, that's fine. You can leave it in the comments later after this post, but you can ask me anything. But this is going to be connected to the YouTube short that I did earlier today, where I was talking about, I like to connect with my Filipino audience because I know I have Filipino viewers. Some of them are friends of my wife, and I know there's one guy who's actually the boyfriend of one of my wife's friends. Um, so you can leave it all here in the comments and check it out. Ask me questions. Like I said, you can ask me anything in this stream. I think I'm gonna make this a repeating series, depending on how this vertical live stream goes, where you can just ask me anything. Meanwhile, I'll bring up like a certain topic to focus on. The focus of this topic will be, I guess, my first trip to the Philippines. I guess we'll narrow it down, as well as talking about other related stuff. But like I said, you can ask me anything in this live stream. Okay, so ask me anything in this live stream. Again, ask me anything in this live stream. Now, of course, trolls will be just ignored, not because they offend me or anything like that, but it does. It's not good for great conversation. Plus, they always get me excited that someone will actually want to fight, and they never do. And asking a person trained in Muay Thai to fight is like, you know, asking a kid if he wants candy or ice cream. Of course I do. Of course I want to fight. But they never really want to do it. They just want to troll and bring down the quality of live streams. But in any case, like I said, this live stream, you can basically ask me anything, but I'm going to just talk a little bit about my, I guess, first trip to the Philippines and, how that turned me into a passport bro. Um, where do I start? Uh, Hi, totally not Tashi. So, Rick Fool, what's up? So, my first trip to the Philippines. Where do I want to start with that? Oh. So again, I want to connect this and say from my YouTube short, if you didn't see that. So yesterday I gave a shout out to folks in the Philippines because it was their National Labor Day, which is a holiday for them. And because of that, traffic was pretty moderate. So my wife and others got to get to work relatively easily. Like it was like maybe an entire hour difference, which is crazy. Like an entire hour difference. And we don't live, well, I live between two countries, right? So, um, in the Philippines, we don't live that far outside of Metro Manila. I I do invest, Rick, um, but I'm not currently looking for any hot investment takes. If that's what you're offering, I mean, you can tell me what you invest in. That's cool, but not really looking for anything new to invest in. I'm not really that sort of trader. I mean, well, investor. I have I have an IRA. I have both a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA. and I have my little stock portfolio on top of that. Very very minuscule. I'm not balling like that. Very minuscule. Al Kelly 2121. Hey, you're back. What's up? Yeah, she's Asian. You haven't seen her in my videos, guys. So like I said in my YouTube short, I don't really show her much in my content because one, I'm not monetized yet, and she and I agreed that we'll show more of her once I'm monetized. Two is that I wasn't going to use her for clicks and views like I've seen some other folks do overseas that travel. Like a lot of them put their girlfriends or alleged girlfriends in their videos to get clicks and views. I'm not exploiting my wife like that. I think that's kind of lowbrow to do that. But in any case, like I said, I live between two countries here in the Philippines, currently in the U.S. Yeah, yes, I do run track. Is it Alquin? Am I saying that correctly? Alquin? Yeah. Well, I ran track in high school, I should say. Now I'm just an amateur runner as opposed to a professional runner because I don't, run races to get any money. I actually ran a race in the Save, what was it called, the Save Manila run or whatever. I did that with my wife, so at the time we only ran 10K, which I'm glad because she didn't train. I kept telling her, "Come on, we need to train." So you, so she didn't. I think she maybe only ran with me once before we did the 10K run. So, we had to keep slowing down so that she could finish the race. But it was fun. I just wanted to do it with her, so we had fun. Um, the the next run I'm thinking about doing would be here in the U.S. I think I want to do the Marines, U.S. Marines marathon in D.C. Um, it's a full marathon because I haven't done a full marathon yet. I've done a half marathon, but only done a virtual race. This one I want to do it live with other folks. Go ahead, ask questions. Like I said, this is Ask Me Any Question, and while people ask me questions, I'm going to just talk about my little stint in the Philippines. Well, at least the first time I went. it's it's pronounced Alkin. Okay, thank you. But it's spelled Alquin. Gotcha, Alkin. Gotcha. I just wanted to say it correctly because I believe in saying people's name correctly. I have a difficult first name. Well, it's not difficult, but people don't seem to get it correctly. My name is Aman, and I've been called everything but Aman since I was little. It's been Alman, Ahmad, Aman, Armand, whatever. So, hi Riley, what's going on in Australia? What part of Australia are you from? So anyway, so like I said, I'm probably going to show more of my wife, Mrs. Contrarian, in future videos after I get monetized. But until then, I'm not going to show much of her. But like I said, she's in some of my videos, quite a few. She's in some of the short, especially a lot of the YouTube shorts. She's a huge Swiftie, so I've posted stuff of her celebrating her little Swiftie stuff because when that Eras tour happened last year, they took over the entire North Edsa Mall. For folks in the Philippines, they know what I'm talking about. At North Edsa Mall, like every every week they were up there, and they had like hundreds of Swiftie fans flocking the cinemas. And I know the manager of the mall loved it because it brought so much traffic to the mall. And I filmed them actually in the theater, like singing to the songs in the movie. Like if you looked at it, you would think they were at a live concert, but they were just in this they were just in the movie theater singing along to the movie. 4 a.m. in Australia. Okay. Oh, Brisbane. Okay. Okay. So I'm thinking about hitting up Australia. I just didn't know which city to go to, whether it was like Sydney or Brisbane or there's another one I was thinking about. Um, anyway, getting some uh getting some troll comments. It's unavoidable, so it's funny. It doesn't offend me at all. Um, You dream of playing in the Olympics, Alkin. What in what sport? Or do you run track yourself or a different sport? Perth. Okay. Yeah, Perth is another one. Perth, Australia. So what is my channel about? It's it's a medley of things. Like I'm gonna make a second channel just for martial arts content. I've been delaying it. I said I was gonna do that long time ago. Because originally I was gonna make a separate channel for my wife, but she only already has her own YouTube channel. Well, not channel, but she has her own YouTube account that she may or may not eventually turn into a channel. So I have a second channel that I've created, but I haven't used it yet, and I'm basically going to use that for martial arts content. This channel here is a composite of many things. I talk about martial arts, both my training. I debunk martial arts myths. I talk about fitness related stuff with martial arts and just overall general fitness. Um, I, I shoot the breeze about current events, whether it's politics or just stuff going on in pop culture. Um, I also talk about very nerdy things, whether it's comic books or academic related stuff. So it's a medley of stuff because the reason why I'm sort of all over the board on this channel is just because I know that when I watch other people's channels, usually they have one niche thing, which is cool, but then I get tired of watching them because it's just that one niche thing. So I give you like a kind of a medley of things that I'm interested in. But like I said, I'm going to do a spinoff channel, which is just talking about martial arts, and I'll probably move all that content to that side, to that new channel. And I call myself Just A Contrarian because, as I said in a previous live stream, often if you are skeptical or use critical thinking on things on which people choose not to do so, they'll call you a contrarian. They'll say you're just a contrarian. So that's why I named myself such for this channel, but I'm not actually one. It's just that I don't always agree on topics that most people take for granted. So that's how I came up with the name of the channel. But oh, and I also show travel content, so I show some of my stuff traveling. As I'll probably show more of that in the future, but when I was traveled originally, I didn't film a lot of the stuff that I did when I was traveling overseas. So now I'm more cognizant about that and will probably make sure that I film specific content as I travel to post on here. I hope that answers your question. Um, Let me get to some more of this. Oh, so you do track? Okay, well, go for it. If you can get on an Olympic team, that's pretty good stuff. Um, like I said, I run when I'm in the Philippines. Unfortunately, most of the time I'm on a treadmill when I'm in Manila because there's really no place to run. So I'll go to my local gym and run on the treadmill. Where I well, the house we have now is a gated community. We can run around there, but unfortunately, there's a lot of people don't secure their dogs, so that's become an ongoing problem. So sometimes it may not be safe to run out there. I also ran, do the Sunday UP run, at the University of Philippines. I've done that as well. What do I do? So part time, I I do train people as a martial arts coach, but that's sort of more of a hobby than a job. Um, I've also done some life coaching for some folks recently for someone who's on the autistic spectrum. But my main job is working in financial services. So um, I've run a few call centers. I've actually had one overseas in the Philippines as well, which I'll probably reopen and fully own and operate myself once I return. So that's basically what I do. Okay, Laura said Connecticut's in the house. You didn't miss anything, Laura. So I'm just saying that this is a live stream where you can ask me anything, and I'm going to just talk about stuff dealing with my first time going to the Philippines and how that made me a passport bro. Your event, Alkin, is the 100 and the 200 and the long jump. Okay, good stuff. Are you still in college or high school or um how's that for you? Uprising, what's up? Um, what's WIW? Is that what in the world? Totally not Tashi. Have I talked to P Diddy already? Nah, no Diddy. Oh wow, wow! I got you. I got you. Did you hear about the mall stabbing in Sydney? No, I haven't. The problem with world news in the U.S. is that unless you get it from unless you get your news from a bunch of different sources, global news is very limited here. So that's why I don't really watch which is why I don't watch local news here. Um, I get news from like a bunch of sources from China Uncensored to CNN to Young Turks to The Hill to Blaze TV to Daily Wire, um, Washington Post, bunch of stuff that I try to get as many sources. What's the one in Japan? I watched that. I used to enjoy seeing in Philippines till they shut that down last year. What kind of martial arts am I training for? Um, so I do Jeet Kune Do, uh, Jun Fan Jeet Kune Do, which is Bruce Lee's art, Muay Thai, Savat, which is French kickboxing, Silat, which is like Indonesian. Well, Silat is all over Southeast. It's basically a martial art practice all over Southeast Asia from the Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei. Um, I'm not missing a country, probably. Um, so that Kali Filipino martial arts, as well as boxing. That's Western boxing, Taekwondo, Judo, uh, wrestling. So those. Um, those are the ones that I know and practice since I was 7 years old. Brazil, I don't know what's up with you and Diddy, but um, karate. No, I've never actually done formal karate. Now, if you include taekwondo loosely as karate, you could say that. But taekwondo is like a Korean martial art. It does have some influence from karate because the founders of taekwondo and some of the other modern Korean arts. Sorry, my screen just glitched, so I hope you guys can still see me. So no, I haven't taken formal karate. Once I go back to Japan, I do want to take karate, a formal karate class, either Okinawan Goju or Shotokan or something like that. Once I go back, it's one of the things I like to do. Every country I travel to, I like to take their national martial art. But haven't taken karate yet, even though I've been to Japan a couple of times. Have I ever been called N word as a kid? Um, only yeah, once when I was living in Illinois. Uh, when I was living in Illinois, this girl said it because we were going back and forth on the school bus, and people were looking at me like, "You're not going to hit her?" I'm like, "For what?" And I remember these other black kids were like, "Oh, he's one of those guys that won't react to someone calling them." So I punched her, but then it wasn't like a real punch. I just like punched her in the shoulder. That was like one of the few times I remember being called the N word as a kid. It's not that heavy here, depending on where you live. You probably you hear the N word used more by other black people than by non-black people. Of course, they might say that's the Nigga as compared to the Nigger, but I don't want to go over that right now. What kind of martial arts are you training for though? Karate, MMA, chi? No, no, no. So I training for it. So I those are the martial arts that I currently practice. Um, that's I've been to an MMA gym. I've actually done a little spiel on my. So I have different categories. If you guys want to check out some of my previous content that I've made, I have a bunch of stuff on martial arts training as well as martial arts myth. One of the martial arts myths I made was well debunked was MMA is as a martial art versus sport, and I argued that MMA is not a style; it's a sport because it, it's a mixture of specific styles that's used to for competition. Most MMA gyms train specifically in either Muay Thai or kickboxing as their striking style, as well as Western boxing that is, and usually wrestling and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Now some might also add Kyokushin karate, but now there has been a focus to try to make MMA a style and not just a sport where you basically as opposed to, and so I go into that. Basketball. I haven't played basketball since college, really. Just with my friends, like going to the gym, or we even had when we had a house, we used to hoop in front of the house that we were renting while in college. But I don't really play basketball like that. Hi, Felix. What's up? I can just type Australian news. It's called Nine News, I think. I'll check it out. Like I said, I do have a lot of global news on my YouTube feed. So if something happened, more than likely, I'll catch it sooner or later. Shoplifting is not a martial art. Okay. Blue Baron, what's up? Don't mind him, Blue Baron. Th- every live stream has trolls. It wouldn't be a real live stream without them. So the guy that killed and stabbed 6 people and they died and injured 11. I think, and injured one. I think that's horrible. See, here in America, you're more likely to get shot than to stab. There are stabbings here. So don't get me wrong, but most people fear mass shootings here. I know Australia has severely limited who can have firearms and stuff like that. Um, I'll probably do a video with one of my friends about that, about gun control versus gun rights here. um, Let me see. I'm just scrolling the comments, guys. So Chris Webber went from trolling to talking about being a Hebrew Israelite. I've talked about that in my last live stream. Tend to get these Hebrew Israelite folks in my live stream for some reason. For the nunts, guys, those are black folks who claim um, that black people are the real Israelites or something like that. It makes it's a it's a cult, and I'm just gonna put it frankly. Like I said, if people don't know, again, the name of this channel is Just A Contrarian, which means I don't stand for much nonsense. Um, and like I said, whether I get monetized and get sponsorships in the future, two things I will never bend on. No Diddy. But two things I would ever bend on is telling the truth when it comes to academic matters and to matters of martial arts. But yeah, the Hebrew Israelites are a cult. They dress like Piccolo from Dragon Ball Z and harass people as they walk by yelling out quotes from the Bible, and they look ridiculous if you ever seen them. um, and he also goes with the second myth that black people are the original Native Americans. Neither one of these are true, and they're both. First of all, neither one are true. Plus, they're both inconsistent. You can't be the original Native Americans and the original Israelites or whatever as well. Two different people, two different times. Doesn't make sense, but people who are conspiracy theory minded don't think rationally. This channel is all about rational thinking. What do I do for fun, Trellin? What's up, by the way? So, martial arts. I like to read. I'm a bibliophile, which means a lover of books. Don't confuse that with other things. So, especially I have comic books. I read my old textbooks for fun, or I buy new textbooks, mostly dealing with cognitive science and philosophy. I love reading stuff like that, as well as stuff about astronomy and space. Uh, Besides reading and martial arts, I run. I love running every day. Um, I love watching stuff like anime and superhero movies. Uh, Hanging out with my wife, traveling, eating unhealthy food. But because I have such a grueling fitness routine, I can get away with it more or less. Although I should still eat healthier at my age, but I don't smoke, I don't drink, so I have to have some sort of vice. My vice is unhealthy food. Speaking of unhealthy food, you can buy me a coffee. This iced coffee, one of my pleasures. Um, I don't know the whole. Okay, so y'all could just ignore that dude. He's weird. And a lot of his comments are getting hidden by the YouTube algorithm. I'm so if you guys when you see YouTube comments hidden on on the feed, that's not me doing it. Their algorithm automatically does that just to let you know I'm not blocking any comments to come through. Their algorithm does that because certain things will trigger their algorithm. Um, so you need a gun license and stuff to get one, but Australia is like the UK with their knives. But yeah, so I hear. Gun license is reasonable. So you have to have one here. I live in Maryland, which is one of the most restrictive uh, states when it comes to gun rights. You have to have a HQL, which is your handgun qualifying license. And if you want to get a concealed carry permit, then you have to take a separate training for that. Being a veteran, I don't have to do those. All I have to do is simply apply. I don't have to take the training to get the HQL, which is the handgun qualification license, and I don't have to go get training to get the concealed carry permit as a veteran. But I'm glad that they do make folks do that because some guys do not know what they're doing when it comes to that stuff. But Maryland has a lot of issues with that. I've actually done a video talking a little bit about gun control and gun measures versus gun rights, specifically in Maryland. So you can check that video out if you want to scroll through my cat no my library of videos. But I'll probably plan on doing another video on that. Hey, what's up, Scoop? I'm doing all right, thanks. Diddy be wanting to party. You got to tell him no. That's right. No, Diddy, I'm not going to your party. Right, yeah. And Denzel, so I know Denzel said, hey, he said, if you do go to a Diddy party, you leave early. Mr. H, I don't know if you're trolling or not, but we don't use, I'm not going to use that term in this live stream. Um, so anyway, let me see. I'm trying to get to all the comments. If guys, if I didn't get to your comment, just can you repost it so and I'll see it because I'm scrolling down as we talk and I might miss a few things as I jabber on. So let me ask first, Chris, you came onto the stream in a bad look, my dude, right? So you came off as a troll, but I think I've been nice, right? And I'm sorry, the claims you're making don't stand up to evidence and reason. There's no supporting evidence that Black Americans are the Aboriginal American Indians. That doesn't make sense. Native Americans or the indigenous um, native people of America ethnically are related to East Asians who came across the Bering Land Bridge between Russia and Alaska around 13,000 to 13,500 years ago. The first known folks were the Clovis people. We still have remnants of them going all the way into um, the southwest parts of the United States, and we see evidence of them throughout uh, all of North America. I think 80% of Native Americans still claim lineage to them. There's no there's no supporting evidence that Black Africans were the original Native Americans. It's just false, patently false. As far as the Black Hebrew Israelite thing, again, they're a cult. They dress like people from Dragon Ball Z. They look ridiculous. All they do is harass people that walk by them, like with random stuff from the Bible. I've seen them in action. They're ridiculous. These are non-educated people, probably mostly people. I won't go there, but um, they don't know what they're talking about. Sorry. Like, what's up, Jamie? Uh, can I name three countries in Europe? Yeah, Germany, Lithuania, Finland. You want more? I've been to Germany, loved it. If there's other brothers in this chat, go to Germany. That's all I'll say. I went there. The first time I went there was in the army. Man, that's a topic for another time. Oh, I'm sorry, Riley. Let me get to you. So no, I don't have any kids yet. Plan on plan on doing so soon. What's up, Marinella? Yes, sir. Sober is the best. Yes, it is. What you want, OG? I'm. This is just me shooting the breeze. I don't know how to say that. DLONG00. Um, this is just a ask me anything sort of stream because I noticed in my past few live streams that no matter what the topic was supposed to be about, people just ask me random questions. So this is just about asking me random questions. Meanwhile, I was gonna try to go into my first experience hitting the Philippines. What's up, Debbie? I see. Yeah, I was watching a live video. Bro was from Chicago and he was listening to music and he had three Glocks. What in the world? On him in the news? That's crazy. That sounds like Chicago, though. I used to live in Chicago. Well, I used to live in the suburbs of Chicago a long time ago, University Park and Park Forest. Um, didn't live in Chicago proper, thank goodness, because even in the 80s, it was pretty bad. Actually, it was probably worse because that's when the Cabrini Green projects was open. If um, They talk about Cabrini Green and Candyman, that classic horror movie, and then the remake of Candyman. They talk about how it closed. And after I moved back to the East Coast, I know that a lot of those people were pushed out of those projects into the suburbs of Chicago. My show says shalom. What's up? And Daddy Chill said Denzel Washington be low key saving souls at a Diddy party. Right, right. Like I said, Denzel said, man, if you go to one of them Diddy parties, come home early. I'm telling you. True black Africans are from Egypt. That's not true. So, first of all, most black Africans are from sub Saharan Africa, which is below Egypt. Okay. There are some Saharan Africans who are black. Uh, I guess like those from, the Sudanese folks, and there's some people within the North Africa that were black, but more or less the Saharan people were either Berber or of Arabic descent. Most black people were below that in sub-Saharan Africa. So that's not true. I actually dated an Egyptian. And she said her family gets quite upset when people say the Egyptians are or black are or were black people. They're not. They're simply not. Most of them are Arabic or Berber. Um, and as far as black Americans, like I said in a previous video, I did a whole back. You guys can check out that previous live stream. I broke down my whole ancestral background. Most foundational black Americans come from West and Central Africa. Okay. So true black Africans are not from Egypt. That's simply not true. Now, have they been ruled by black people? Yeah, they've been ruled by black people. Um, but the people themselves, the common folk, they were never black people. Um, but again, that doesn't mean that black folks haven't accomplished anything just because they aren't Egyptian or whatever. You know. Anyway, scrolling down, what we doing here? We're just asking me random questions, Borcho. Let me get back to Chris Weber. Is it Weber or Weber? I don't want to miss. I don't want to say your last name correctly. I'll just go by Chris. Okay. So he says, so then how come when Christopher Columbus arrived here in the 1300s to 1400s? No, he arrived in 1492, my friend. Are there journal inscriptions and documentation from different individuals and even Columbus himself of the peoples they saw? All right, let's be clear here. Cristoforo Colombo came here in 1492. Every, I don't know if you're American or not, but every American student, every person who went to an American school who has an American education should know that. They drilled this into us since like elementary school, literally. Um, when he arrived in the Caribbean, specifically on the island of Hispaniola, which is now modern day Haiti and Dominican Republic. And then he had a series of voyages around the Caribbean, meeting, the Carib Indians and the other folks, large like the the Taino, who were the people of like places like Puerto Rico, um, and stuff like that. He actually died thinking that he made it to the East Indies, which is why America is not named after him. America is named after explorer Amerigo Vespucci, because he was the one who actually made it to the mainland of North America first, and not Columbus, who only sailed the Caribbean and Latin America, and died thinking he made it. He had founded a shortcut to the East Indies, the Spice, specifically the Spice Islands, which is modern day Indonesia, which is why we call Native Americans Indians, because he thought he made it to Indonesia, which was at the time under the Indian Hindu kingdoms. So he thought he made it to the Spice Islands, which at that time was governed by the Hindu kingdoms of India, and hence Indians, which he didn't. Um, there was no documentation showing that there was black Africans on these islands prior to the transatlantic slave trade. The transatlantic slave trade is what brought black people to the Caribbean, Latin America, and North America. So, come again, it's my country, Henry Van Dyke. Um, you can say what you want, Henry. Facts are facts, my dude. Uh, Egypt is not a black African country, nor has it ever been, nor is Libya. The first time you encounter an African nation on that part of a black African people in that part of the world are the Sudanese, who were the ancient Nubians. So I don't know if whether you live currently in Egypt or not, those folks aren't African. I mean, aren't I'm sorry, they aren't black, and they never considered themselves black. And I have that on good source from not only historians. Again, for folks, I've said this a million times in previous videos. I've taken an entire course on African history from a African professor. I dated an Egyptian woman. I'm not making stuff up. And history was going to be my major before I found out how boring history was and switched over to something else back many eons ago. Ruddy skin and hair like wool. Chris, have you ever seen Southeast Asians? Have you seen Indonesian folks? Have you seen Filipinos? There are people. So, getting back to the Philippines and connecting it to this comment, and this with and my Filipinos in the comment section, you guys can back me up here, okay? So throughout Southeast Asia, including the Philippines, there are these people called the Negritos, which means like small black people. There, you see them in the mountainous regions of the Philippines, and they have different names that they go by in the Philippines, but you also see them in remote areas of Thailand and Indonesia, even Vietnam and Cambodia. Those definitely are black people, and of course, some of them had intermingled with the Austronesian people or Indo-Malay people who make up the majority of those Southeast Asian folks. As far as the the um, the natives that Christopher Columbus and other Spaniards encountered within the Caribbean and South America, again, a lot of those people can trace their ancestry to the Clovis people, the original people who came to North America over 13,000 years ago over the Bering Land Bridge. That Bering Land Bridge was used for them to travel between modern day Russia and modern day Alaska, because during the Ice Age, the sea level was much lower than what it currently is, because a lot of that water was frozen. Middle East countries. I haven't been to any Middle East countries yet. Well, almost did because when I was deployed, when I was in the army, I was going to Iraq, Afghanistan, and Kuwait. But because of my dietary restrictions, because of having PKU, I ended up staying stateside after getting ready to deploy. But I haven't been to any Middle East countries yet. Um, Deciding on which ones I want to hit. Probably UAE, which, but right now I'm not going to visit too many because of the whole conflict right now between Israel, the Palestinian thing. So if I went anywhere, it'd probably be UAE, but probably gonna not go right now until that's worked out. Hopefully soon. Germany, if you know, you know. You and I can agree on. Oh, that's where you're from. I'm sorry, you're from Germany. I thought you were saying you were from Egypt, Henry. My fault. Um, yeah, Germany, man. If you know, you know. I completely agree. Sorry, I confused. I thought you were saying you were from Egypt originally. I'm sorry. So, you were saying I was a black guy in my previous life. I lived in Mississippi. Beyonce was okay. You're tripping now. um, I'm just scrolling down. Hi, Sylvia. How are you? What's up, Trey? Black Africans are from Portugal, huh? You're all over the place, Henry. I don't know. Oh, we got Egon Spengler in the house. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. And Egyptians aren't black, and that's what I'm trying to tell him. That's what I'm trying to tell him, Dr. Spengler. That's what I'm trying to tell him. John the Baptist was black. Um, well, first of all, where do we all right, let's this is getting a little muddled. So first of all, John the Baptist is a biblical character. We don't know if there's any corresponding historical figure to that biblical figure in real life. Two, I don't remember that being in Egypt. I'm pretty sure that was in Palestine at the time. Um, and three, even if it was the case that he was both black and Egyptian, doesn't mean that Egyptians overall were black, right? Anyway, I'm with Trey here. Is that Egyptians were already a very diverse culture and ethnicity of people. Um, how did this turn into a I mean, like I said you can ask me anything, but I don't want this to be just about um revisionist history. Uh, but yeah, and I'm not gonna regurgitate what I said. If you know, even when Europeans came to America in 1500s, they saw black people here. That's simply not true. Where do you think so many slaves came from? They came from Africa, my dude. They came from Africa. Why do you think the transatlantic slave trade is one of the most horrendous parts of world history? Because they literally exported millions of people across the ocean as chattel slavery. This is known. Where's the debate on that? Not to mention, they weren't just going across the Atlantic, they were also going across to the Middle East through the Arabic slave trade and there was a bunch of white people being enslaved from Europe in the Barbary slave trade because of the Barbary pirates along the coast of North Africa. Slavery was the default position of throughout most of humanity, unfortunately, throughout most of civilization. That's how these people ended up in the U.S. This is why we have foundational Black Americans who've been here since 1619. There were no Black people here prior to that. The earliest known people to have arrived in America after the Native Americans were one, the Vikings, and there's some evidence that there have been Pacific Islanders that have made it as far as the coast of South America, like Chile, places like that, or the islands off the coast of like Chile. But there's no evidence that Black Africans were here prior to the transatlantic slave trade in 1619. Deep State USA says same thing could be said about the Asian, Indian, Dravidian connection to the Australian Aboriginals. It's theorized that the connection between those distant cultures are ancient. So in my previous live stream, guys, I mentioned the National Geographic project. National Geographic channel has a whole docu-series about this, and it traces people's lineages, and it talks about how the movement of different people across the world happened throughout since the beginning of human history. Guys, check that out. It clears that up. So the Aboriginal Australian folks, they're black folk that came here the same way people uh, came to Southeast Asia. Like there was these routes coming, starting all the way from East Africa throughout India, down into the Pacific Islands, and then eventually into Oceania. The place like New Zealand and Australia and those islands surrounding it. Good stuff to check out. That National Geographic project, which has a series on the National Geographic channel that talks about that. The Dravidians, yeah. So I don't know why that was hitting, but that wasn't a offensive comment. But again, the YouTube handlers do that automatically. And I agree with Deep State USA. The idea that the Native Americans were originally black is ridiculous. It is patently ridiculous. So I can see the argument that Pacific Islanders and Hawaiian natives have a connection, but most natives, no. Exactly. Like I said, we have some evidence that there may have been Pacific Islanders who came to South America during thousands of years ago. But there's just no evidence that there's been black people. Some people will try to point to the statues of the Olmecs or other folks, and it's very bad trying to take uh, artistic representation as historical evidence for anything, because artistic representation is not a one-in-one portrayal of the people usually that made the art. Obviously, it is Afrocentric revisionism. It clearly is deep state. Thank you for saying that. Um, when I was a kid, I was definitely into the whole Afrocentric thing back in the early '90s, and I remember having a teacher in high school telling me that this was bad science. At the time, he didn't explain why, so I didn't believe him, but he was completely correct as I learned more about it. And so this stuff had no academic rigor to it, to the claims they were making. But it's psychologically it's psychologically comforting to a lot of people to embrace some of these revisionist claims about history, because it makes them feel good about themselves. And no one should feel good or bad about themselves based on what their ancestors did or didn't do thousands of years ago. Um, I'm not talking to myself, see Sweezy. There's people in this thread. I'm responding to their comments and questions, my friend. What's up, UFC Life? Do you currently compete in MMA? Uh, I'm getting to more of these comments, guys. You the type to believe in outer space and we live in a spinning ball. You also the type to believe black people are from Africa? Huh? So black people are not from Africa? Again, man, coke is a hell of a drug. Because I don't know what he's talking about. Um, is it there's so Deep State USA says there's a theory for the Olmec head statues that there was a small group of seafaring blacks, a breakaway group who was in Central America at the time, who forced Phoenicians to carve their faces. Yeah, but uh, I've heard stuff like that too. But again, it, to transport, so well the Phoenicians, were people back in the the Near East, which, as far as I've heard, ethnically Phoenicians Greek, were had Greek ancestry. Regardless, I don't. There's just no DNA evidence that there were Black Americans living within Central or South America at the time. That those Olmecs were related to them. Sometimes we can't take art to we shouldn't take artistic representation literally of the people who created the artwork. All right, so anyway, so no one has left any comments after that, so I'm gonna go back into my spiel about the Philippines, guys. Um, excuse me. So, the first time I arrived there was in Metro Manila. For those who don't know, Metro Manila is not one city. Some people confuse Metro Manila with Manila City, and Metro Manila is actually 17 cities or 16 cities in one municipality. And Manila City is just one of them. It's also called the National Capital Region because it is it is the capital of the entire country. It's a very great place to go if that's your first time in the Philippines, which is where I met my wife, excuse me, and it's what made me a passport bro because I have traveled before that, but just as a soldier back then, which still counts, but um, that was my first time traveling overseas as a civilian. It was great. Delta is awesome. I know people talk crap about Delta Airlines. Delta is awesome. Um, I had stopped over in Japan first on my way to the Philippines and arrived there. Folks, if you're looking for a cheap way to travel, let me break down a whole bunch of little secrets for you to get to travel cheaply. One, book book your flights months in advance. Two, travel on off days. Don't travel on the weekend when everyone wants to travel. Those are going to be the more expensive days. Three, when you go to your browse to look up these different flights on these travel sites, put it on incognito mode. If you're using Chrome or whatever browser you're using, it's usually something like secret mode or incognito mode or whatever. Basically, it turns off uh, these websites' ability to track what you're doing as you're browsing on on that app. And what's good for that is because these travel sites look at how much traffic is being generated to particular flights and stuff like that, and they will increase the price of it. So when you browse these sites in incognito mode, they can't track what you're looking at on their site and use that to give you higher prices for those trips. Then also, after you do that, after you go to those travel sites and look up flights, find the airline and then go to the actual airline website, and usually and often the case, the same flight on those airline sites is cheaper than on those third party travel sites like Expedia and Travelocity and all those other folks. What else? Layovers. Using a lot of layovers will save you money because most people don't want layovers. They want direct flights. To me, I love the layovers because that means I get to get off the plane and stretch my legs, and it becomes uh, it sometimes your layovers can be a trip within itself, which I've done that multiple times. I use the layover as a trip within a trip. No, I'm not lying about layovers. So again, so my first trip, so came from Baltimore, went to Hartfield Jackson Airport in Atlanta, and I did not know that was such a huge airport. Like we had to, there's trains within Hartfield Jackson to get to the terminal that you need to fly from. And then from there flew to to Japan, I believe to Haneda Airport in Tokyo, and then from there to the Philippines. And I enjoyed it because, like I said, I got to stretch my legs. So from BWI in Baltimore to Hartfield Jackson Air, that was like what 2 3 hours. You know, stretched out, got a snack, whatever. Got on the flight to Japan. That was about 12 13 hours. I slept most of the trip. And then, by the time we got off, I had like 2 3 hour layover in Japan, which wasn't enough. But I corrected that later. Then got to the Philippines, uh, to Naya, which is their main airport in Manila. But I'm not lying about layovers. I think, like I said, this is just a personal thing, but it does. But objectively speaking, it's true. Flights with more layovers tend to be cheaper than direct flights. You can look that up for yourself. That's not something I'm making up. What I'm saying is that's my personal preference to have layovers because I don't like long direct flights. And they are now direct flights to the Philippines. But to do a direct flight from the Philippines, there's only two places to do so. That's from JFK in New York, and I think from San Francisco in California, maybe also LAX and Los Angeles. But those are the only places you're going to find direct flights. If you live anywhere else in America, you're going to have to do a layover to get to either JFK or to California and then fly out from there. But again, I enjoy my layovers because I get to stretch my legs, instead of being stuck on the plane the whole time. What's up, Travis? And so, once I got there, my wife met me at the airport. But as soon as you get to Naya, you're going to be bombarded with a bunch of people asking, do you want a taxi? First of all, don't take taxis unless you speak Tagalog. Don't take taxis. Use Grab. Grab is their version of Uber. They used to actually have Uber in the Philippines. Um, Grab. What happened was Grab. They merged with Grab in the Philippines, or Grab bought them out rather, and then Uber put one of their executives on the board of Grab. So still sort of Uber, and it's the same. You use it in the exact same way. They also have Grab to order food and do stuff with, just like here with Uber Foods and I mean with Uber Eats and all of that. So when you come to Naya or anywhere in the Philippines, use Grab. Don't take a taxi because you'll probably end up paying more than what you need to. And there are some scammers who might lead you astray as well. So just download the Grab app once you get to the Philippines, or before you get to the Philippines rather, so you can take that. So I was getting a bunch of people asking me that, and asking me for a taxi until I met my wife. But let me get back into the comments here. So Deep State is responding to Chris. Not to cut in and switch topics, but Chris, you need better discernment. These people selling you these lies about our history are down playing real African history and culture. Exactly, and that was my point. That regardless of what happened in our past, people today should not be using that as a source of pride for what their ancestors allegedly did or didn't do. It just doesn't make sense. We can take pride in what we do today. And yeah, Deep State, yeah, Filipinos are some of the nicest folks I've ever met too. Actually, they actually have a rating each year globally of the nicest people on the planet, and usually Philippines are always in that top 10. So yeah, it's definitely true. And the women are beautiful. The food is good. Uh, Black people, hey, if you love, well, not, all right, that's racist. I was about to say black people, if you love fried chicken. Anyone, if you love fried chicken, you'll love the Philippines. Like, you can't go anywhere without finding a place that sells fried chicken. And the McDonald's sells fried chicken. The Burger King sells fried chicken. Wendy's sells fried chicken, like it used to here. Um, then you have, Jolly Bees and all that sort of stuff, right? So yeah, so I met my wife. She was nervous when we met. We weren't, just dating at the time, and we took well, it was still Uber back then, so we took an Uber back to our place because I had already gotten a condo before coming out there, and we came like traffic there is insane, which is why I was giving a shout out yesterday to all the Filipino workers who got to enjoy Labor Day, because that the usual traffic jam, the daily traffic jam, wasn't present on Labor Day because a lot of people weren't driving. Um, Traffic is crazy. People swerve in and out of single lanes, including the buses. I remember the driver. He was like, "Oh, this must be like." He said, "This must be like New York City, huh?" I'm like, "No, this is nothing like New York City." I said, "I think people would get into fights if they drove like this in New York City." And it took us like hours to get to the condo, even though if there was no traffic, it probably would have been like 40 minutes distance. Like the distance probably should have been no longer than 40 minutes if there was no traffic. But it took more like, I don't know, like 3 hours to, to get to our condo. The condo in Metro Manila was in Mandaluyong. Mandaluyong is like in the center of Metro Manila. It's also known as the shopping district of the country, because all of the most of the major malls are within Mandaluyong. There was one mall that used to be the largest mall in the country and like the third largest in the world, um, in Mandaluyong. And in fact, my condo was one of they may have built more now, but when I was living there, it was the only condo in the Philippines that also had a mall built within the condominium, light residences, right? Um, so at the bottom is the mall. It's a two-story mall, and the condominium is above it. Well, there's a parking garage, and then the condominium is above it. Um, it was sweet because if you are an agoraphobic, not that Not that I would encourage agoraphobics to never come out their houses or whatever, but say if you were an agoraphobic, you would never actually have to leave the building to get anything that you needed, because you could come right downstairs. So the residences of the condominium have their own elevator that takes them directly into the mall, and you could come right down there. There's a supermarket in the mall. There's a cinema in the mall. At the time, there was a clothing store in the mall, a bunch of restaurants within the mall. You would never actually have to leave that building for anything if you didn't want to, because you could get every. There was an arcade, so you could just come down there, go shopping, do your groceries, all of that. Even go to the movies, and then come right back upstairs. It made things so convenient, especially if you don't drive, and most Filipinos don't drive. And then there's so much traffic and so much smog within Metro Manila that for drivers, you can't even drive every day. There's certain days that you're not allowed to drive. So um, it was really convenient. But like I said, it took hours to get there. And after I got there, she and I just relaxed because it was already the evening. And that following morning, the first place that I ever ate was Bo's Cafe. Bo's Cafe is like Starbucks, but it's nicer. It's a it's a Philippine owned um, business, and it has like a little excuse me, it has a sit-in restaurant there. So we ate breakfast. I had coffee and all of that. And then later that day, I went to Jollibee's because I told her, well, I'm in the Philippines. I have to get the Jollibee experience. So I ate it. And she thought it was, she thought it was hilarious that I ate my food like a Filipino. Like, I poured the gravy over the rice and dipped my chicken and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, black people eat rice. I was like, we like rice and gravy. I said, that's a big thing amongst, Southern black people. And she was like, oh, I didn't know. So that was like my first time coming there. And by the way, like I said, I don't show her too much in my content, but you can catch her in some of my short videos. One of the things I have shown, like I said, was her doing her Taylor Swift stuff, doing the Eras Tour concert film. So I have those. I have little short clips of her visiting different provinces within the Philippines. I even have a short clip of her reaching the summit of Mount Apo. Mount Apo is the tallest mountain in the Philippines, and she and her friends climbed it. So she's a certified mountaineer now after climbing Mount Apo, the tallest mountain in the Philippines. And I have videos of her showing her reaching the summit with her travel friends. And her travel friends have invited me to come out with them because after she told them my fitness routine, they was like, "Oh yeah, he can hang with us." So I'm going to take them up on that offer when I come back. Um, oh yeah, so deep state, yeah, definitely. I would definitely say hit the Philippines since that's on your bucket list. I love it there. Like I said, it's my second home now, so I'm home between both the U.S. and the Philippines. I have a house there. I live with family here in the U.S. A Paperman, what's up? So this is a Ask Me Anything live stream, but I was just talking about my first experiences in the Philippines, um, going to meet my now wife, uh, and just I gave a few details about some ways to save money traveling there. So let me state that again. So one, book a flight months in advance. Two, fly on a day that's during the middle of the week. Don't fly during the weekend when everyone wants to fly. Those are the more expensive trips. Three, check out the travel sites by browsing on safe mode or incognito mode or whatever they call it, depending on the browser you use, like Firefox or Chrome or whatever. There's usually something on those browsers that lets you switch it to a mode where you can't be tracked um, by the places, by the websites that you visit. And that way allows you to find cheaper prices for those flights because those travel sites will track your whereabouts on their website, based on how much traffic is generated and up the prices on those flights. And then after you find the flights that you want, find that same flight from that airline directly on the airline's website itself, and it might be cheaper than on the third party travel websites. Then again, incorporate layovers into your trip, and they'll be cheaper than direct flights. So, and that's not just to the Philippines. That's a general thumb. Um, but I think I'm about to end this, guys. I was kind of talking before I went outside because it's hot as dickens here. And I didn't want to go work out in the in this heat wave. But unless anyone else got any other questions, I'm gonna wrap it up. But again, I just I just wanted to go over my first time in the Philippines. And again, I have a whole category on traveling, so you can see where I've traveled at least a few places. I haven't put enough of my content on there, but that's just because when I was originally traveling, I wasn't really video recording everything that I did because I was experiencing it. I wasn't worrying about recording it at the time. But I do have some things on there. I also have some things that my wife did, Mrs. Contrarian, on there, and her stuff was way more exciting, to be honest. But again, don't expect too much from her until I'm monetized, because once I'm monetized, then she and I are gonna do more stuff together here on this channel. We still have a reaction video that we're gonna do. She's debating whether she wants to be on a video with me as I react to some Taylor Swift songs that she wants to pick out for me to listen to. Because although she's a huge Swiftie, I don't listen to Taylor Swift. So she wants me to do a reaction video of me actually listening to songs that she picked out for me. So I still have that in the works. But unless there's other questions, that's it. I enjoyed the little um, historical debate as much as as much as that can be with those sort of armchair debates. Again, I shout out to Alkin, who said he wants to run track in the Olympics. Hope he makes it. He says he does 100 meter, 200 meter, and long jump. So shout out to him. Thanks for participating, and everyone else. Unless there's any other questions, guys, I am out. All right. Thanks again.